Gotta touch knees, guys. Knees
Glad I wore my skinnies today.
Knees to knees. Shit. Come here, little bato.
Golly.
You get the big boy chair.
I do. I feel pretty good.
It's just like the mat. We're all touching knees.
It's not
Shoulder
weird
to
at all.
shoulder. Feels. I'm very comfortable.
Yeah, because you've got the shortest fucking legs in here.
I would say the thickest legs, but
debatable.
just, I don't think so. Anyway, so what are we on? This is episode 2020. It's episode 20. You were wrong last week.
Well, you do this shit every week. You would think you'd write it down at some point.
It's episode 20. No, I got a brain like a steel cage.
Episode 20.
Okay, maybe not.
Steel trap.
Steel trap, yeah. Whatever he said. So, welcome to episode 20. Today we have special guests. Our professor. Professor
Hello.
Brian Martin.
The Redbeard legend.
It's good to be here with you ladies.
That'll get you kicked out real quick.
What's on the agenda today?
Couple of things we wanted to talk about, but since we have you on here, I'm sure you've done this before, probably a million times, but for the people that don't know you, just give us a little quick background, how you got started, the academy, and that whole thing real quick.
I got started around 2005, 2006. I was coaching wrestling at the high school level, or assistant coaching wrestling at the high school level. And I was recruiting in St. Joseph, Missouri, and one of my guys that was working for me was training MMA, and one of his teammates had a fight against a wrestler, and he wanted to work on some takedown defense. So he said, "Hey, Brian, can you come down and help him on some takedown defense?" I said, "Sure." Went down and worked out with them for a little bit, and they said, "Hey, why don't you come in and train?" And I was coaching wrestling at the time, so I said, "Yeah, maybe when I'm done." And so I got that desire to compete back in me, and I literally stopped coaching wrestling one day, like the season ended. The next day I went in and started training. And I was at a MMA school. It wasn't Gi Jiu Jitsu. It was no Gi submission grappling. It was called Lone Wolf MMA. It's 10th Planet, Kansas City or something now. He was...
Your fave?
Of course it was 10th Planet, Kansas City.
Right. Jeremy Horton is the guy's name. I still talk to him every once in a while, Facebook friends and everything. But was training with him for, 6 or 9 months or so. Ended up fighting MMA 8 times during the course of the time that I fought. Moved to Wichita, Kansas, to a town that had Gi Jiu Jitsu. So I started training Gi Jiu Jitsu, had that one last fight, the 8th fight, and then concentrated on training the Gi since then. Moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, trained with Tusa. Then from there to Tennessee. While I was in Tennessee, I was still Gracie Baja. I was training with Samuel Braga and had opened up my own partnership gym. It was called Clarksville Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy, which later turned into Gracie Baja Clarksville, which is now Renzo Gracie Clarksville. So that was actually the first academy that I had long time ago. The Army sent me down here to Houston. I retired. Had the opportunity to open up this gym, which was Gracie Baja Sugarland for four years, and then a year and a half ago or so changed out to Renzo Gracie, which has just been a phenomenal fit. Now there's Renzo Gracie Lake Houston, Renzo Gracie The Grove, and pretty soon it's gonna be Renzo Gracie Riverstone. Also Renzo Gracie Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which I just got back from a week ago. So there's 6 of them on the team, and it's really cool. Try to get another one down here somewhere, and maybe another one up in the Northeast somewhere. So
that's awesome. Great growth, man. Great growth. So since you're here, one of the things we wanted to talk about, because we thought it was hilarious, I don't know if you've seen on your social media, it came across my social media. I dismissed it until somebody brought it to my attention last night. And what it is this belt checker website. Have you heard about this?
No.
Okay. So what exactly is it? Is it beltchecker.com? What is it?
So it's the website. It's actually beltchecker.com. It's owned by the guy that runs the Globetrotters. Right, same dude.
I don't know how to say his last name.
So basically the idea here is that the long and the short of it is it's a website where you can go and verify your legitimacy, I guess, through this website where a black belt, for example, will go through this pretty intensive, from what I read, verification process. Everything from uploading a profile, pictures, when you got your promotions, a phone bill or electric bill to prove who you are. But the idea behind it is kind of unique. The idea, when I first heard of it, I was like, okay, I could see the benefits in that. It was with the idea, I guess, or the intent to say, is this guy really a black belt? Is this guy really a brown belt? And so forth, And I get where the intent was because, we've heard of it, we've seen it. There's schools that are, there's schools that are having fire sales giving out black belts. It's like you're on an Oprah Winfrey show. You get a black belt, you get a black belt, everybody gets a black belt. And it's like, are you really a legit black belt,
I got something I could say about that.
Well, this is the idea behind it. This is designed basically to, you go on there, you play this little popularity game, and you get verified through other people in the community. So a black belt, if he verifies that you're Brian and that you're a black belt, you earn 100 points from that black belt. And you don't get
points.
You don't get verified technically until you earn 1,000 points.
Yeah.
$100. Sorry, 100 points for a black belt that verifies you, 50 for a brown belt, 20 for a purple, 5 for a blue. Those are the points, the way they accumulate if those belt ranks are verifying that you are who you are. So, like I said, when I first heard of it, I thought it was pretty interesting, and then I realized, oh shit, this is a popularity contest.
What are they verifying, that they're just a black belt?
Any belt rank, whether you're a white to gray to yellow.
What's the intent behind it? Just to be able to say that, yeah, that guy's a black belt?
But there's one little thing I think you're missing is that people can downgrade you, right?
Well, we haven't even got to that piece yet. But yes, so the idea here, Brian, is that this website is designed as a verification process for someone that maybe they're moving to a new city and they're thinking about joining a gym, and maybe they're questioning whether this guy's really a black belt. So this is supposed to give you the opportunity to go on there, find this dude, and through a process of verification, you can know like, oh, this guy's legit. But the issue here is that it's a popularity contest because, like Jason was saying,
isn't that what Google reviews are for?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Or medals or whatever, right? But the idea here, it's flawed because now it's like, I get where the intent was that you want to be able to say, okay, this guy's legit. But the problem is the downgrading piece. If someone doesn't like you, they can downgrade you. Someone can go on to this and say, yeah, I know Brian, he's not really a black belt, or his black belt is questionable, and then you lose points. So instead of you getting to your 1,000 and being verified, you go the opposite way. And so now, do you see what I'm saying? It becomes a popularity contest.
But who gives that one person the right to say
the website?
The website.
I know,
they're
but
registered, and so it gets this. I think the intent was because of there was like a little rash of fake black belts and people promoting themselves and some of this stuff that was occurring, and then people were just doing what the community was actually handling it and calling these people out and putting them on YouTube and showing that they're not legitimate. They're not legitimate black belts, or they shouldn't be teaching, or they, whatever fuckery was going on. This is, I don't like it at all, because you know why? Because this guy's my verification, right? He gave me my black belt. If anybody has a question, I send them to him. Just like for you, the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This guy's my verification, just like someone else's professor's their verification. That's all you need, in my opinion. This, I agree with you. It's a popularity contest.
But the problem is sometimes, I know there are situations that, like, how am I going to verify my black belt?
Well, I mean, Carlos Gracie gave you yours. Junior gave you yours.
So am I just going to message him and be like, hey, dude?
Well, you could just message Gracie Baja, I'm sure, and they would verify you, wouldn't they?
No.
Or you could go through Tusa or...
Well, I mean, I'd have to go through Tusa, but what happens if, like, Tusa was mad at me? Or Tusa was not available, or Tusa was whatever?
I mean, I would
then
say...
What?
You know what I would say? Just roll with you. And then let's decide if
well,
it's black belt or not. Well, I mean,
I got
that.
I agree with that part, though, but they're talking about this verification process, and who did you get your black belt from? I got my black belt from Carlos Gracie Jr.
Yeah.
Carlos Gracie Jr. is not going to remember me. He awarded me my black belt.
Look, I think the intent, like you were saying, there's good intent behind it. I think the execution is poor. I think the execution is
I think it'd be better if it was like a review system. Like, hey guys, what are some good places to train in that area? And people can say, well, this place is good, or that place is good, or this place is good.
I agree with that.
And then people can hop on board and say, yeah, this guy's good, that guy's good, that guy's good. And then somebody says, well, what about this guy? And maybe not be like, oh, well, I don't like that guy. Okay, well, why don't you like that guy? What experience that you have that you can formulate that opinion on? Well, my friend told me this. Okay, well, that's not you.
Yeah.
You're like, what experience did you have? It has to be. It drives me crazy when people give reviews off of things that they heard. Like, well, I heard it wasn't any good, so I just said it wasn't any good. I'm like, get a personal experience first. You know?
I agree, and I think that's actually a much better way to approach it. And you have to have some monitor it, right? Because if someone comes on and writes some stupid stuff, that's clearly someone who's got a petty gripe or some type of axe to grind, and they're writing crappy stuff. I would just, if you leave any kind of comments that are not appropriate or not respectful, it gets deleted.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it could be. I think the idea is well intentioned, right? It's just I don't like the format, and I don't like the execution of it.
I think it'd be great minus the deduction point system. The voting system also allows for disputes, which means that a verified user can deduct points from others if they believe their rank deserves to be called into question. Any negative points will mark
but the
a
thing
profile
about it
as
is
disputed.
But the thing about it is, ultimately, to get to 1,000 points, anybody that is whatever a black belt that has students through that point system, they could accumulate. If they got a couple of blue belts and some purple belts, I mean, they could get there.
Yeah, you could. It's a weird thing because, like I said,
But the thing about it is, the people that are like that aren't gonna get on there to be verified.
That's what I was thinking. Like, who goes on there, to be like,
the only people going on there to be verified are the people that are gonna want to be like, hey, I'm a black belt, check my shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the people that they're trying to prevent happening aren't gonna jump on there and be like, well, if I could just get to a fucking 1,000,
sure.
I'd be verified and people would come train
point.
with me.
Well, we're talking
They're gonna be like, I'm not going on that fucking website.
That was my first. When we talked about last time, first thing I was like, fuck that. I don't need that fucking website to verify my shit.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought.
We're saying this, but what if next week we come in here and Master Henzo's on it and shit, and, I'm sure he got to 1,000 super quick,
You think Master Henzo's going, I need to get Belt Checker to verify my freaking...
Yeah, right.
Right.
Hickson's going to get on there to verify his coral belt.
Like I said, it was a weird thing. I didn't pay attention to it. I started seeing all these black belts, a couple of black belts that I follow posting up, hey, I'm verified now if you want to go in and do the whole point
ultimately,
system.
I think the community polices itself pretty well.
I do too. I really do.
Like, people that are shitheads or...
It's a close-knit community.
Yeah.
We all talk, and we all are on the same forums. We're all on the same websites. We're all connected one way or another. And when there's somebody, and then there's something going on, and there's somebody that's either not a legitimate black belt that's teaching or something, or that's doing stuff that's inappropriate or wrong, it gets called out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it gets blasted pretty quick. I think we're pretty good about that as a community.
I mean, heck, I don't think that she was found through the postings, but that girl at my buddy's gym that went missing in Las Vegas, and that thing got posted.
I saw it
everywhere. I mean, I saw everybody posting that thing, and then they found her, which was great. But I was like, man, talk about the community coming together for a girl that trains jiu-jitsu, and was missing. I mean, that was crazy. The response to that.
That's actually a good point.
Well, I think between the three of us, somebody should get verified, and then we can see what's up.
I refuse. I absolutely refuse.
Who's the rookie black belt in the academy?
JT
and Ocampo.
JT.
I bet,
Ocampo's going to get verified.
Ocampo will be the guy.
Let's just do this. Let's just say, hey, Michael, you get verified yet?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what? No. What?
Dude, what are you waiting on? We're all verified.
You got to get on there, man. He'll be like on tonight.
Yeah.
We got to do it before we post this.
Guys, I got to get my 1,000 points. Guys, I got to get my 1,000 points. Come on, I got to get my 1,000 points.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go down.
Ocampo right there. Got to get my 1,000 points.
He'll have everybody in his academy.
Right.
Hey, you guys got to get on on the verifying quick.
Yep. Oh, man.
Hey, white belt, 0 points. Hey, man.
Well, they're only going to give you...
No, 0 points. Right
Yeah,
there.
0 points.
White belts. Well, that's one good thing.
You got to get really nice with the blues and up at
Got to
least.
get Henzo Harry to chime in. That'll be 100 points.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, that's funny.
Oh shit. So another thing that we were talking about last night was, I've heard you say it, I've heard my previous professor say it, and I've heard other black belts say it when we talk about jiu-jitsu that I think most black belts can agree that jiu-jitsu is about two things: technique and leverage, right?
Muscular strength and endurance.
There you go. So the question becomes, if most black belts will agree that technique and leverage are what jiu-jitsu is about, but if you could add a third, what would your third thing be to add to technique and leverage? Assuming that everybody's in agreement about the first two.
What's the objective?
The objective would be just basically to be able to say that this is what jiu-jitsu is about.
Say like the 3 pillars of jiu-jitsu,
okay,
with technique and leverage being the first two.
Yeah.
What
What would be your third that you would insert?
Me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What would be your personal third? If you
Personal professional black belt. Verified.
Balance.
All right. Balance. So he's aligning himself with like Chad, who talks real highly of structures.
Structure and angles is what.
Ari came back with
a
yes.
complete.
Yeah, but what is but a lot of those things like structure, when I think of structure, I think of that as technique. If you do the technique properly, your structure is going to be proper.
Right.
So I think a lot of those things that people are saying are like subsets under it. If you talk about the core things that you need, you have to have technique. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's all kinds of subsets underneath those. Good technique, properly executed.
Right.
You know, the proper leverage with the execution of that technique, because you can have crazy leverage, technique and leverage. You have to apply them properly. But I think, you know, a lot of those things that you talk about with structure, and what are some of the other ones?
Angle. I think structure, angles.
Yeah.
And then Sid and James had the same one.
So Professor Joe Murphy said his immediate thought was strategy. He said he talked a little bit about human chest. He talked about strategy. Mm-hmm. Sid, I believe, said that Sid said timing,
which was exactly what Foster said.
Bullshit. That his third should have been creatine.
Protein powder.
Yeah, there you go, protein powder. And Ari, once I kind of made him dial in, his was basically what did he say? He said podcast topics. Base. That was his
base. I mean, I
which is kind of,
and I almost said base when I said balance. I mean, I was in that. I mean,
it's kind of in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I think you have to have. You know, I mean, a lot of the words are all going together with either structure or foundation or base or balance or whatever. You have to have some ability to bring all of that together. Like I said, if you've got technique and you've got leverage, technique, if not properly applied, is going to be worthless. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the leverage. If you don't properly apply the leverage, I mean, you have no leverage. I mean, there's leverage there, but not just the proper leverage. Mm-hmm. So these two coming together, you know, bringing it together with a structure or balance or base or whatever you want to call it to kind of make sure that they're executed properly. I mean, execution, it would be one, but that doesn't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. What did you come up with?
I came up with movement.
Movement?
I felt like movement is real important. You got to be able to move, and you have to have fluid hips and things like that. Yeah. I noticed like a lot of white belts when they come out, they're so stiff.
Everything's
everything's stiff. Everything's just locked in.
What do they do?
Say it again.
What do they do when they're doing the technique? What happens?
They do it terribly, and I have to keep correcting them over and over again until.
Or they just freeze up and then tense up.
Well, when they're actually rolling, it's like they lock up, right? And that's all they know, which is understandable because your brain just doesn't have the ability doesn't have anything to go with yet, unless you're coming from a wrestling background or something, but. Or you've got that natural athletic ability. I felt like
but then again, you've got to look at again what the objective is. jiu-jitsu, if you're looking at it for the self-defense aspect, I don't need to necessarily have a lot of movement. I'm trying to sustain a fight for a long period of time until people can get there to help me.
I think what I mean is like proper movement, like the ability, like don't. I don't know if I can explain it right.
Structure?
The ability, the ability. I guess the ability to create angles with movement. Right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to create angles, and you have to be able to move properly.
Mike Columbus's answer was angles.
Yeah.
Angles.
Well, we can't forget. So I think Keith Owen had the best answer.
He said, "Get a fancy gi."
He said, "Make sure you have a fancy gi."
Yeah.
It all falls apart without a fancy gi.
That's true.
I think for me, if I had to answer, it would be. I thought my third would be space. And what I mean by that is the management of space. I feel like jiu-jitsu, once you can understand everything's about technique and leverage, the next thing that's important in my mind is space and managing it, whether you need to know in a certain moment to create space or eliminate space. So for me, that was my first thought was space. Because shit, man, if you don't know how to manage that, you're fucked, because it's going to be a long day for you if you're stuck on bottom and you don't know how to create enough space to be able to breathe, or when to, push people away and when to bring them in. Yeah, that's the best coaching every tournament. So
just breathe. That was how we coached when we were like white belts and blue belts.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I remember you coaching one time, Jason. Just breathe,
dude. That's all we knew, man.
You're like, I do that fucking naturally. Thanks.
I don't have an option.
Oh shit, man.
So hey, let's talk about that movie. Have you seen this movie yet? The Art of Self-Defense on Hulu?
No, you told me about it, but I need to check it out.
Oh my!
You said it was hilarious.
It is so bad, it's good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read you some of the quotes.
I don't have Hulu. I mean, I can only subscribe to so many things at a time.
I'm gonna just read you some of the movie quotes, okay? So you can kind of get an idea. This
like
is
a python.
Like a python. This is a girl teaching a rear naked strangle.
Yes, they call it a rear naked.
It's not a rear
strangle.
naked choke. It's called a rear naked strangle.
Right.
Strangle.
So she says, like a python.
Hold on. John Danaher calls them strangleholds.
Oh, does he?
They're not chokeholds. They're
technically
strangles.
I've never listened to any of his stuff. It's too long. He's so
try to read
monotone.
it. It's like
no,
yeah.
but I mean, even if you read it, like, because I know, but you can't read, can you?
I mean, if it's not on video or coloring books, then I'm dead, man. But like,
yeah, he calls them strangleholds.
This chick in this scene is applying or teaching a rear naked strangle.
correctly though. I will say this: it was taught correctly.
It was actually pretty good. But here's how she explains it: like a python, I slowly begin to squeeze my mouse, starving the brain of oxygenated blood, and proceeds to put this kid, a kid, she's an adult, puts him to sleep.
It's a kid's class.
Yeah, because this is a kid's class.
She put a kid to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's genius. No, puts it in and leaves him there.
She wake him up?
Oh,
no.
and
She just dropped him and walked
and then he
away.
wakes up and he's like, "What's the seventh rule?" He's like, "Tap or take a nap." Like he knew he messed up. Like he knew he was wrong. When he woke up, he looks around. What's the seventh rule?
Then she should have known as was going to sleep.
Oh, she was annoyed
she was
that
annoyed.
he went out, and just kind of threw him off.
Yes.
And this little guy has to wake
She
up
was
and just
a
look around.
freaking beast in that movie, bro.
Oh, here's another one for you.
Dude, I gotta check this out.
Oh,
When
there's
engaged in
gold.
combat, it's not a matter of if the fight will end up on the ground. It's a matter of when. Which I was like, damn, that's pretty good, because
That's like one of the
9 out of 10 fights end up on the ground.
That's like one of the oldest sayings in the world when it
This is
comes
so
to
true.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah.
But it's just so true.
Or combatives.
But so this movie, we gotta tell people what this movie's about first of all.
Yeah.
So this guy, was the guy from Zombieland. I don't know his name. I forget his name. I should have probably wrote it down before we got on here. But it's the kid from Zombieland, the kind of goofy looking skinny kid, right?
Hey Siri, what's the cast from Zombieland?
Oh, jeez. Not going to go through every single one.
Which one?
Yeah. Way to go, Siri.
2009.
Zombieland features Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse
Jesse
Eisenberg is the
Eisenberg,
character.
yeah.
So it's Jesse Eisenberg.
Who
and,
always plays a nerd, by
Yeah,
the way.
which he's playing.
Yeah.
And so he's like this IT nerd that everybody picks on and no one listens to, and he's super goofy and awkward. Well, one day he's walking home from like the grocery store, and this motorcycle gang comes around and just kicks the shit out of him.
Let me interrupt you right there, because I want you to keep going with this. You know how they approach him? They drive by him and ask him, "Hey, you got a gun?" and then burn off.
But that comes back to play later. Right?
Yes.
I don't want to kill them. I don't want to spoil.
No spoiler alerts, right?
But yeah, they ask him that. Then they come back. It's 4 of them, and they knock him down. They stomp they foot stomp the crap out of him right in his head, steal his groceries and his wallet, and take off.
Steal his groceries.
Yeah.
Dog food.
Yeah, it was
groceries.
dog food. As a matter of fact.
Damn, I didn't get Juju some dog food.
And so anyway, so he decides he's walking by this karate place afterwards. He's like, I need to learn self-defense.
Need
It was a
karate
karate
lessons?
gym. Yeah, it was a karate. His whole thing's a karate dojo, but they're teaching like jujitsu in there too. So he walks in and it's like super Cobra Kai-ish, but darker.
Yeah,
It's like a Cobra Kai gym, but very dark. There's like a menacing feeling, and there's some crazy scenes. One of my favorites is the blue belt who thinks he's getting a stripe.
Oh my
Remember?
god!
So this blue belts,
Yeah.
they're sitting in the locker room. Actually, it's real funny. This is almost accurate. They're in the locker room, and there's these 2 like guys in the locker room in their underwear doing techniques. Like, no, come here. And he's like doing you're doing a shoulder throw, like if someone's trying
I hope
to do.
that's
it.
not accurate here.
It's not accurate here, but I want to.
But how many
in
times
some
have you
gym-
been,
in the gym? No, come here. It's like this. The guys aren't in their
Yeah.
underwear. At least not that I've seen. But it's kind of not totally off. I'm sure it's happened. So anyway, this guy's sitting in there, and so he's with Eisenberg, who's like brand new, right? And he's like, "You going to promotions?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going. I guess so. What happens at promotions?" He goes, "Well, I heard Professor talking to so and so, and I heard I'm getting a stripe." Right? He's like, "Oh, that's good." He's like, "Yeah, it's kind of a big deal."
Kind of a big deal.
So they go. The best part. I'll just go ahead and say this part. So the best part is they go in, and they start promoting everybody, right? And of course, he overlooks somebody that everybody knows should have got their black belt, and everybody's bummed. Then he promotes somebody over that. It was actually the female. Promotes somebody over the female, gives him his black belt, and gives out a couple stripes, and then doesn't give that guy anything. And then, so you see the guy just like, Professor, are you forgetting anything? I just want to make sure you're not forgetting anything. And he's like, no, I'm not forgetting anything at all. Are you sure you're not forgetting?
Dude, it
It's
was
a classic
so
scene.
bad. Like, who does that? As long as you've been, as long as you've had your own academy, have you ever had an instance where like somebody felt like they should have got something they didn't get?
Without naming names.
I know, yeah, without naming names. Has anybody ever like come to you and been like a little bit kind of disgruntled because they felt like, hey, such and such got this, but I didn't get that. We've been training just, or
From now until the end of time, students will always compare themselves to others who got promoted.
Well, I mean, it's natural. People start at the same time. They look at each other like, they're almost in competition with each other. We start
Yeah,
at
but
the same time.
that's what's crazy. I mean, it always happens 100% of the time. But people don't realize that everybody's got different training objectives, different schedules, different lives. So when they start comparing themselves to, oh, well, this person got promoted and I didn't, then it's like, yeah, but do you train like they do, or do they train like you do? You know what I mean? So I see it, or have seen it in the past, but it's just...
How do you approach it? Like, how do you approach it if someone's like, hey, Professor, I really feel like I'm ready for my next stripe, or I really feel like I'm ready for my next belt. Because for me, like, I never in my wildest dreams ever, like, would come up to you or come up whoever my professor was at the time and say, hey, I think I'm ready for my next anything. I was just like happy if I got anything.
Yeah.
You know? But how do you handle that? Like as a
Has it ever
instructor?
happened to you?
How would you handle it if it happened to you? Or if you have an experience?
I would probably ask that person why they think that they deserved it. Because most of the people that I've taught and trained, it's never happened to me. So I will say that. It has never happened. But if it did happen, I would probably ask them why they, like, what
Is there something they could say to convince you? Or would it just be more like educational, like, why do you think that?
educational.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, whoever the person that's in charge of assessing that student, whether through a test or physical assessment, it's their decision. And I was talking to Chris with 2 S's about this yesterday. He goes, "Hey, I heard that you don't like giving stripes to adults." And I'm like, "Well, not really." And it goes kind of along the same lines. Like when a person's ready, they're ready. You know what I mean? And although stripes are a good thing to have, I guess, if students like to see where their progression is, and not that they're just one belt for a year or years, you know. But how are you going to tell somebody, "Hey man, you're a quarter of the way there," you know? you're halfway there.
But I do think stripes are a good motivator.
Yeah.
For sure. Even they motivated me.
And that's really the only thing that stripes do. Because there are times that I've physically seen a student training, and I'm like, this person is going to take for effing ever to learn jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Like, either it was just a block or physical ability, or usually it wasn't physical ability. It was just like not comprehending some of the complex movements. And it's like, man, this person's going to take forever, to progress. And then like in a 2-week period of time, they go from, I think this person is going to take forever to, wow, this person really finally just really got it. Yeah. And then their progression is a lot faster. So when you see a person like that, they're like, man, this guy's going to take forever. And then you're striping them, one stripe, and then you're like waiting forever, and then 2 stripes because they're better. And then the next thing you know, you're like, it's been 2 years this person's been training or whatever. Maybe say that they're a white belt, and now they're a white belt. 2 stripes or 3 stripes.
Oof, 2 years.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, that's right.
But then what do you do with that person? But then on the other hand, too, because then you get in that situation where you get a person that is just taking longer to learn, whether they come to class less or even if they're coming to class at the same time. Do you continue to promote that person just because they're showing up?
I don't agree with that.
So then you're along the lines of you got to promote by ability. So then you're talking about a white belt or whatever belt, and then their ability is halfway.
Is it the ability that they're capable of, or is it the ability of the standard you set?
A little bit of both. I mean, it's not necessarily it is the standard that I've set, or whoever the person is, because it's subjective unless they do a physical test. And if you do a physical test, then people just study for the physical test.
I don't agree with the physical test.
Either do I.
The ability to apply a technique under stress and someone resisting versus knowing a technique are 2 different things.
100%.
We knew somebody who would know a lot of techniques, but if they tried, they
couldn't fight their way out of a fucking paper bag.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know a shit ton of people that would do nothing but privates, and then you put
like
them on
Ashton
the mat.
Kutcher.
Oh,
I just watched that today with Craig Jones. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw it.
But it's like
that's
it's
a perfect
that.
example
of
someone who doesn't train with a bunch of people. They just get that private, and now granted, Craig Jones is a world class jiu-jitsu athlete, right. But it was obvious that he is not normally training with different body types and different people on a regular basis, because he's supposed to be a brown belt level, and that did not. I mean, he's not listening to our fucking podcast. That was not brown belt level jiu-jitsu. That was like blue belt.
And that's what caught me off guard, because they always talk about Machados don't just give out belts either,
But
Henry Machado,
that's who he trains
the professor to the stars.
Well, I would say that there are black belts out there that will turn black belts and make them look like blue belts. I mean,
but he wasn't even trying. Craig Jones was literally, that was like you or me rolling with, or us 3 rolling with a white belt. Just like, okay, all right, here you go. Get your hits in.
He just looked lost, or like he was rushing, and it was just like weird. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, I don't know, man. But like,
there was no flow or competent. I won't say competent, but there was just no. It didn't look natural.
But what do you think about that, though? When I'm talking about when if you're working on stripes and things like that.
I think that this is my opinion, and my thing is I think stripes are great motivators, and we see people putting in work and improving. I agree, giving them stripes to show them, hey, I see you working hard. I see your improvement. This is a stripe. You're doing well. You're getting there. I think it's a great motivator. And I think my personal opinion is...
But What happens when you get to that second stripe going to the third stripe? Because that's a difference. Getting your third stripe on your belt
Starting to get serious.
is starting to get serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one more stripe, the next promotion's your belt. So the next time you get a stripe, that means, hey,
The next promotion is a belt promotion, and everybody knows when the belt promotions are too.
and everybody knows the next promotion's a belt promotion, and everybody knows, oh man, that dude's a 4-stripe,
He's supposed to
whatever belt.
You know, and another,
You know what I mean?
Another part of that too is that's representing your academy. So, like, if he's training with somebody else from another academy or whatever, even just in here, you see someone say purple belt 4 stripes. Well, purple belt 4 stripes, you're basically a brown belt at that point. You're expecting that level of competency and skill set. And if they're way below that, you know, that's another thing to be considered. Of course, when somebody gets to purple belt, of course, it's getting pretty. They're usually
Well, shit, a couple of months back, we had a guest come through, and they were a brown belt with I don't know how many stripes and couldn't do a fucking takedown to save their lives. And it was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, and it was just like a weird thing where we've always said it. Fuck, you know, beltchecker.com or whatever your belt says out there on the mats, it's all gonna come out, man. You know?
well, the mats. We say mats never lie, right? You just go,
But I'm going to play devil's advocate the entire time. But there are people out there that are blindly being led by people, instructors that have no idea that their instructor's not any good.
oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
for sure.
But and then coming all the way back around, you know, that's what that black belt checker, I'm sure, is designed to do.
Yeah.
To give people an idea on legitimate black belts in the area. But also, revisiting what we talked about, those people that are not legitimate black belts aren't going to try to get on there and become legitimate.
Because they know.
And the people that they have as their students probably aren't going on there and looking, or they go on there and look and they say, oh, well, my professor is just as good as those guys.
Yeah. Well,
And
they
they
don't
have
know
no
any-
idea, because ultimately what it comes down to is the public opinion. And even though, which drives me crazy when I hear about these things or see these things, like people like, it's like there's such poor jiu-jitsu out there, and they're blindly feeling like they have to have some kind of crazy loyalty to someone when they are the paying customers.
See,
We just talked about that.
yeah,
last
that's
week,
one of
man.
my biggest pet peeves.
Like
is-
everybody that walks through these doors, it's my privilege to be able to teach them. I'm not privileged because they decide to show up to learn by me. I'm fortunate that they come through these doors and they choose me as the person to be able to teach them how to do jiu-jitsu. I feel extremely fortunate for that.
Yeah.
And for the people that think opposite of that, that's where you get into that like cultish type
Blind
deal.
loyalty, yeah.
And that blind loyalty, and it's like sometimes it's just like, man, if people would just realize that they are the customer, you know?
Yeah, well, and I've had conversations with people that train at gyms where there's that cultish
Yeah.
atmosphere, and I've been, you know, hey, you should just come over here to our open mat, and they're like, well, no, my professor wouldn't allow that, and I'm like, what? Is he your dad, or
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, what difference does that make? You pay him money to train there. He doesn't have a right to tell you can't go to some open mat. Like, why are you giving that person that power? It makes no sense to me.
But it makes sense to them because most people that are homegrown in one gym, it's the same thing. You know, like the same analogy about a battered person. They don't realize how shit their relationship is until they get out, and then they look back and like, fuck, why did I take all that abuse for so many years? Treated me like shit. You know, I couldn't do anything. And I think it's the same thing for these people that are homegrown. If you've only been at one gym, I mean, we talked about this. You couldn't tell me shit other than Elite MMA when I first started because that was my gym and I bled and breathed it. You know, like there was no other gyms. This was the absolute the one, and it was that cultish, blind loyalty because I was a beginner and I didn't have any other experiences outside of that gym. So I think it's natural for them to just hold on to it with everything they've got because they don't have anything to compare it to.
Right, and there's loyalty, and you know, you always want to think that the person that's teaching you something or the person that you're associated with is the best of those people. You know what I mean? You're never gonna want to try to admit that. Yeah, you see those commercials. he's okay at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know what I
that's
mean?
it's
Like,
about.
hey, are you like a great instructor? Well, I'm okay.
Nobody's gonna tell you that.
Teaching
Yeah.
your jiu-jitsu. You know what I
That's
mean?
funny.
But no student is going to think that as well. No student's going to be like, oh, well, he's okay. I know there are better ones out there, but, he's okay. I'm like, nobody would say that. You know what I mean? They think, oh, my instructor's great. I love learning from him.
It's funny.
Which is
'cause
okay too, but...
Yeah. What opened my eyes when I was at Elite was watching, like, Drew leave, Chris Kalinas leave, watching guys leave.
Like their high level guys were all leaving.
Good guys were solid, and I saw him, especially when Drew left. That really was like, because Drew's we used to call him the black belt killer, right? When he was a brown belt, he was just murking black belts all over the place. And I remember
Drew?
Drew Lockwood.
That
he
dude's
owns,
good.
Yes, he is. He was he is really good. I haven't
That
rolled
dude's
him.
real good.
Yeah. So when he was a brown belt, man, we go to tournaments. He was murking black belts. And there's one black belt tried to fight him on the mat. Actually, he armbarred him, and the guy called it. And then the guy said, "I didn't tap." And Drew's like, "You did tap." He's like, "No, I didn't tap." So the ref reset him, and Drew was a brown belt at this time. So they restarted. Drew catches him in the same arm lock, like within 15, 20 seconds.
Break it?
No, he taps for sure this time, but then he gets up and he pushes him.
He said that he held the arm a little bit longer.
Well, he wanted to make sure that he tapped that time.
He didn't injure him. Yeah, he made sure that
I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, Drew's a good guy,
Very
nice
nice
guy, but I'm
guy.
surprised he didn't. Most other people probably would have broken that thing.
Well,
you didn't tap last time to this? I'm going to make sure
it
that
was
you
for sure.
tap it.
And I remember he got up and he pushed him, and everybody had to step on the mat. And then he wrist locked that one 4 or 5 strike black belt out of Brazil. And Drew's, I haven't trained in a long time, but and everybody still keeps talking about how good he is,
Yeah.
But yeah, when he left, that really opened my eyes. Like, oh my god, there's other gyms I should look at, and that's when I started kind of looking around, and then I ended up over at Gracie Baja with Lupiano, and the instruction was just, Elite was great, but the instruction was just so good. It was just way better. And I started learning something other than
Arm bars.
Kimuras and Americanas. And it really opened up stuff and opened up my eyes, because rolling with the students there was suddenly their technique was just better than the guys had been. Not you, Ronnie, but all the other guys.
I know you were.
Some of the other guys, the technique was just better. You know what I'm saying? And it really opened my eyes up. And students, I always encourage that. Go train at other gyms, check them out, find the perfect fit for you, right? And train there. Don't train someplace out of blind loyalty that you're not happy at, or that's not a right fit for you. Train where you feel comfortable and where you fit.
Yeah.
And I think you'll have the best experience.
Yeah, man. I think that's it. I agree with that.
All right, got a few minutes left for our Dear White Belt segment.
Ooh, can I go first?
Yes, you can.
Dear White Belt, if the professors are teaching or going through technique, do your best to look like you're engaged. Don't lay on the mat on your tummy with your hands holding up your head and like you're a mermaid on the beach. It's a bad look, and it makes me want to come over there and kick somebody in the head. Not that I would, but let's just act accordingly. If you're receiving instruction,
Is this like a novel?
No.
To the Dear White Belt?
Show the professor respect by... I'm not saying you got to crisscross applesauce here, guys, but, just be engaged and don't let your body language look like you're disinterested when the head professors are teaching. That to me it just bugs me, man. So.
My turn. Dear White Belt, if you are drilling a technique that you learned in class with an upper belt, and he slightly alters it, do not correct him and tell him he's doing it wrong. There is a good chance that he knows the technique, and he is simply trying to apply a different part of the technique, trying to simply apply a different version of the technique to see if it'll work for him. So, dear White Belt, do not correct upper belts on their technique.
That's a funny one.
Do you have any dear White Belts, Professor?
Dear White Belts. Ask the questions when it's time to ask questions.
So my Q&A class?
Don't ask questions when it's not time to ask questions.
Do you mean just during a live roll or just in general? What do you mean?
Live roll's a good example.
Yeah,
live roll's a great
That's
example.
a pet peeve of mine. Shut the fuck up and let's roll.
Yeah,
God
let's
damn.
train, man. Yeah, that's a good one because I get that a lot. Like, you submit somebody and they want you to give them a quick seminar.
No.
Hey, so what was that movie? Hey, man,
should do it like the Brazilians. My friend, come to me after class. $150 a private. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, there you go. So you got anything coming up? I know you got a super fight.
Well, the team has got, let's see, Lauren's fighting February 8th.
UFC,
for the UFC. And then Franklin and Kinsey are fighting Submission Hunter Pro on February 28th. And Ricardo Evangelista from Lake Houston.
Oh my God, I feel so bad for who he's fighting.
Those three are fighting on that card. And then Nate, Lee, and I are fighting on the Third Coast Grappling card coming up March 14th. So that one. And then there's a couple opens out there, but as far as super fights, I think those are the only ones that are.
Do we have anybody in the Houston Open?
I don't even know if anybody's registered for that thing.
You know,
I know Josh.
That's a good one.
Josh is fighting Sunday at Halverson is fighting Sunday
right.
at Austin Open.
At the Austin Open.
Mm-hmm.
So, good luck to him, and yeah.
No, he'll do great.
He's tough, man. He's a tough role. You got to be ready to go because if you're not, he's tricky. He's like that one blue belt we got. I can't think of his name right now. He's tricky. Remember?
Oh yeah.
If you don't pay attention, he'll catch you some stuff. He's been training a while. It's just
talking about Tony.
Yeah, he's kind of tricky. You got to pay attention when you're rolling with him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because he caught me in something.
It's his shirt. He
That's
gave me
a cool
this
shirt.
And there it is.
That looks tricky. It looks like he's got some.
He gave me that shirt. I saw him today at the noon class. He came in for Nogi, and I said, "Hey, man, check this shirt out."
Yeah.
He gave it to me a long time ago.
All right. Well, I guess that sums it up for episode 20 with special guest Professor Brian Marvin.
Thanks for letting me crash your.
Oh, it was awesome.
Absolutely.
Since I was in here working.
Since we kicked you out of your office.
Right.
Hey, we're gonna do a podcast. What?
And then lastly, before we go, quick shout out to Brody, Beastmaster. Don't listen to any of this, Brody, but I know you are anyway. So
Hey, at least mute the. Hey, Dad, mute the
strong
inappropriate language, and so I feel less bad about you. Yeah, listen. Anyway, yeah, I guess that about sums it up. So I guess the last words, we're done, and
I gotta go teach.
Go train jiu-jitsu.
Let's go train, and I'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Break.